Hey, it's Heidi Dawson, and this is Wednesday Wisdom, where I interview wildly successful people from across the world, where we get an inside view into what their daily life looks like. Success leaves clues, and on Wednesdays, we're finding them. Join me now for the latest wildly successful interview.
Hi, Dr. Goodman. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Heidi.
Hi, how's it going, Heidi?
It's good. It's nice to meet you, Martin. I've heard a lot about you from Dr. Goodman because we get to talk a few times, and he's said nothing but good things about you. So I'm excited to get the chance to talk to you guys. Today, what I was thinking we would do, and this is a little bit different from the normal interview, but I thought we would talk a little bit about accountability and personal responsibility. It seems like in this world, we don't have a lot of that right now. And I got an email from a guy the other day that I really respect. In fact, I've interviewed him on my podcast before, and normally I agree with most things that he says, but this one he talked about not being able to control your thoughts and feelings. And, I kind of disagreed with him on that. And I normally don't disagree with him. So I believe you can. And I believe right now it's even more important that you try. And so as soon as I got that email, like 2 seconds later, I got a post from Dr. Goodman about all the things that you do control. And a couple of them were thoughts and feelings and, at least your thoughts, I think. And so I loved that. And I thought, wow, it's so nice to feel, like someone is on the same page with you. So how do you feel about that? Like, I know for you, Dr. Goodman, you're a big believer in being able to have positive thoughts and getting those off the ground,
What I'm a believer in is the foundational principle that what you focus on grows. And because of that, if you think you can't control your thoughts, then you're right. Because you won't exercise the mental effort and do the things necessary to gain mastery over it. But if you believe that you can, and then you start to construct and have the discipline necessary to do it, well, then you will be able to, because you put forth the time and the energy, and then that's what starts to show up.
Absolutely.
But in a strange way, I guess what I'm saying is they're actually both true.
Yeah. No, I do get that. And that's probably where he was taking it. But I also think that with that idea is sometimes you think, oh, well, you focus on this and it's not growing. Like what you focus on is growing, but in order for it to grow, I need accountability partners. So like Martin, you hold Dr. Goodman accountable. And some people would say, well, I should be able to do that on my own, but there's different varying levels of being able to get things done. And I think having an accountability partner is huge. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree. And also I think it's one of those things that you always say, I'll start Monday, and that Monday comes and goes 100 times in your life. So the accountability is someone you really need to, trust, and, in the business sense with Larry and I, we hold each other, hey, we have to get these things out. We need to get this campaign going. I need you for 5, we have to schedule our time to get this thing. So that's that accountability. And then you don't just have one, I have my girlfriend and I have ours, some days I'm not as motivated to go work out, and then she'll be like, no, we got to do this right after the gym, here we go. And she pushes me, or the opposite. She needs me to push her there. So it's in different variations, but, and you have to have somebody that, that you respect both their decisions, and that's how things go forward, because it doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. So it's kind of crucial to surround yourself with people that are on the same wavelength, or like you said, your girlfriend is on sometimes when you're not. And that's the same way with me and my husband. Sometimes I don't feel like working out, or sometimes maybe I don't want to eat good. And he's like, oh, let's eat healthy, and it's so wonderful to be able to have someone like that. So go ahead. What were you going to say?
I think that in many ways, some of what the world is going through right now is that because of the social distancing and various other elements, people tended to fall into isolation. And once they got into their isolation, it was, I'll say, easier to let the bad habits take over.
Yeah.
And now, little by slowly, I have to laugh living down here in South Florida that when they decided that there were enough vaccinations happening, they opened things up.
Right.
And a lot of what opening them up has wound up meaning is the stuff that you didn't do before that you knew that you should, well, now you better because there's other people watching. And so the coach in me says in building accountability groups is build your own and build it now and keep it on point. I mean, if I just wrap myself out just a little bit for a moment, when we got ready to do this podcast today, Martin is the guy who makes sure that when I show up to do a podcast, among other things I'm properly lit.
Right.
And before he got on, truth be told, I was not. But the fact that I knew that he was going to be here made me take the extra step.
You make mountains.
He also has a microphone, but we're getting to we're doing baby steps.
Yeah, let's not go that far.
Yeah.
You know, I have a microphone as well, and my microphone is, the thing about it is that that's so true. Is that when you have an accountability partner, and it's not that Martin's a bad guy. It's just that it's not that he's going to yell. It's just that little extra help for the accountability partner, which is what is so good. So, okay.
100%.
I love that. And I loved the idea that you said, build your own, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes we think, and I think women do this a little more than men. We sometimes think someone is going to we want somebody to save us, right? We want somebody to come in and save us. And we're that person, I'm that person, right? Do you agree with that?
Many years ago, I was at a meeting and the speaker at the meeting said something that I will always remember because it changed my personal life. He said, whoever it is you think is going to ride in on the white Charger and rescue you and take care of all your problems and make them all go away. He said, I have some bad news. And then he waited what seemed like an eternity. And he said, they're not coming.
Yeah.
And once you realize once and for all that if it is to be, it's up to me. And if not now, when? Well, then guess what? It is up to you. It is up to each of us in our own way to decide it's time.
Yeah.
And then, yes, what you said, build the accountability group because I don't know, I'm still human.
Yeah.
If I don't have the accountability group, like I just told on myself before,
right.
I do better when I have an accountability group too. And what Martin was saying before is true. I'm part of that I could count on right now. I'm part of 3 different accountability groups dealing with 3 different facets of my life.
Right.
And I think that's part of how it is I've gotten to achieve the things I've gotten to achieve in life. And so can anybody else, is my point.
I love that. So how important is it then when you have accountability groups, okay, how important is it that you know what you want? Like, I think when you an accountability partner doesn't really help if you don't really know what you're working for, right? So one thing that my question is to you, like, how do people figure out what it is that is their calling. We were talking a little bit about, I don't know if this was while we were recording or not, but we were talking about people having a calling, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And periodically I talk about this a little bit on my podcast, where I'll be successful at something and then something else starts calling me. And it's usually in the vein of what I'm doing, but it's something more. And I generally have to follow that calling regardless, because if I don't, I know that I will eventually. So I'm either going to have to do it now or not. And so how important is it that you know that? And do you think people, when they feel that calling, and Martin, you and Dr. Goodman both can answer this, when you feel a calling, what does that feel like to you? For me, it's just a calling to, like, okay, I'm an interior designer. Right now, I have a calling to either sort of focus a little bit more on feng shui or focus a little bit more on lighting design, because I love both of those areas, but I'm having a calling to one of those where I kind of get a little bit more specialized. Do you guys have that as well?
Martin?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in any of this, when one of the things that I can't say in my own, because even with Dr. Goodman, when we first met, and it's even in the book was kind of inspired, I was inspired a lot by Joseph Campbell. And one of the things was follow your bliss, right? And everything will fall into place. And, you know, and when I first started coaching with Larry, he's like, follow your bliss, but don't quit your day job, you know? Yeah. And that was the thing. So I was going into all of these callings with all this, like, you know, the net's going to magically appear and everything's going to, you know, all these quotes come to mind that inspire you to stay on the positive. Yet I didn't have any structure. I didn't have, like, I wasn't putting any like the financial literacy into it I needed to. I didn't have like a 1 month, 2 week, you know, a 6-day plan. You know, I'm not even talking about 5-year or the 10-year plan. I wasn't even structured in the beginning. So it's like I had to learn the part within, because all of us can follow these dreams and they are attainable, but they're going to come in with a lot of work and a lot of lessons and a lot of failures. So I think the main thing is that the structure that Larry gave to myself and coached me through is that understanding, all right, let me narrow this down. Like he'll tell you probably a formula of one of like, write down the 5 best traits and write down the 5 negative traits of both those decisions you want on the interior design. And you'll start seeing a pattern that'll show you which way to go. So yeah, I structured myself and this narrowed down to this is what I need to do and this is where I need to stay. And then all those other passion projects were on the side, but I had to focus on in this economic model, I had to focus on the certain things. So that's where I am with that.
Nice.
So the thing about a calling is also, I find, if you pay attention, you'll get feedback from the universe based on what shows up. And it's, you know, I would simplify it and say, how do you know if it's a calling versus a delusion?
Okay.
Well, you know, if you look around for a while, what shows up will validate the calling or give you the clarity that, well, maybe this is not the time for that one.
Yeah.
Well, there's a phenomena that happens, and I'm sure we've all experienced it to one extent or another. You read a book about a subject, or let's use one more obvious. You just get a car. When whatever kind of car it is, when you then start to go for a ride through your neighborhood, that's all you notice is that kind of car over and over and over again.
Yeah,
or you just painted your house a certain color and you're riding through your neighborhood and through your town and you never noticed before how many houses there were that were painted just that color. I think that that's a lot of from the universe that we're, for want of a better way to put it, we're on the right track. The universe is saying something to the effect of, attaboy or attagirl, yep, keep going in that direction, because here's the feedback to let you know that this isn't a delusion.
Right. Okay, so then if we're speaking to someone out there and they're on a track right now and they want something very different. So like Martin, you said, Dr. Goodman said, don't quit your day job, right out of the gate. Right. So, so how would you venture into that? Would you just say it's a process? Is it something that someone would go, well, I can do that at night. Maybe I don't need to quit my day job, but maybe I can focus on it at night or during the weekend. Because not every time is it good to just jump ship, right?
I mean, it reminds me of the metaphor of it's a metaphor, of course, of how do you eat a whole elephant, one bite at a time, One of the things that is putting them into increments, and in my life, a lot of times you read certain things, but what works for me is I like using a pad showing my to-do list. I have like every day I do a new page of a to-do list, and that helps me because I have two different pads, one for Dr. Goodman and one for my other company that I have. And that structures me down, and that works for me. And then every day I start a new one. It's just kind of a thing. So I'm just showing you like an elementary part of how I structure myself. And then I'm like, all right, hey, Larry, we have XYZ, we have this meeting, we have that. And then I have to finish this ClickFunnels by today. And then we increment these things out. And it's the only way. Like before I was very it would all get done and then, nothing gets done at the end. So this has helped me. I found the structure that worked for me, and then I found people accountable, and that's what I've been doing with my life, and it's changed.
I think every great idea, every great successful implementation started out as a side hustle.
Yeah.
I remember before Martin and I crossed paths, my business existed really on a whim. What I mean is I didn't have a website. I had a phone number, but I didn't have a phone listing. I didn't have so when people found me, it was literally by the fates.
Right.
And shortly before Martin crossed my path, I was working with a client who happened to be a web designer. And he said to me, after working with him for a while, he said, what you do is too important to be kept a secret. and I remember thinking at that point, I don't even know how I would go about crafting what it would take to promote what it was I was promoting. And the next thing you knew, within days, and this is back to what we were talking about earlier, who showed up was Martin. And as we started to talk about how I could help him, then we came up with a solution for how he could help me. And from that, all of this was born. And so I'm a real believer, and I continue to be, that if you stay true to your values, and if you pay attention to what's going on, life and the universe will give you all the feedback you can need if you pay attention and you're willing to act on the feedback that you get. And I think sometimes that's the thing that happens for people, is either they're not willing to do the work or they're not paying attention.
That's such a valid point, because I think we have a society right now that, they want so much because they're seeing it on social media, right? But that's all they do is spend so much time. And I fall into that sometimes. Like I have an idea like, I'm going to do this, and this for the day. Martin, I'm a list girl. I love to have my list. So I do the same thing. It's the most satisfying thing in the world to check that off. Yeah. Right. But sometimes, if I go down the path, I'll check my email, and there's an email that pops up and it sends me down a rabbit hole of something else. So how do we avoid that? That's where I think we can really help people is how do we get our brains to stop being so addicted to distraction?
So the coach in me says, as a fan in the nutritional domain of intermittent fasting, I've become a real advocate for intermittent social media fasting.
Okay.
That every week or so, you take a day and just turn it off and give your neurology a chance to reset. Because rest assured, the people that designed these machines and the people that designed the apps that go on these machines designed them to be addictive.
Yes.
And if you don't take a stand for yourself and give your neurology a chance to reset, of course you're going to get caught up in it. It's consumption stimulation by design and by intention. So of course you're going to.
So I don't know, Martin, or, I don't know, Dr. Goodman, if you feel this way too, but sometimes like I feel, and I've said this to my husband before, and we don't watch TV. Like we just don't watch TV. We didn't when we met. We've been together for 15 years and we still don't. Like if we're going to watch something, it'll be a movie,
Yeah.
So we have internet TV, but we do not have cable. We do not watch the news or anything like that. But sometimes with social media, whether it's Twitter or Instagram, I feel like a drug addict, and it's not like, I mean, and I think a lot of people feel that way, but it's sort of like, I want to stop, but I can't,
You should pardon the expression. There are 12-step programs for that.
Are there for social media?
I don't know about social media, but for internet, yes.
Okay.
For computer, yes. I don't know about for Netflix, but there ought to be.
Well, it's Martin, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's funny because I was reading something and it's like tech creates a solution and then it creates another problem within the tech itself. So the example was like, you want to get off your phone and be more zen. So to get off it, they had created a a meditation app, 20 minutes only, but you're still on the app. You know what I mean? So it's like they're keeping you in a loop of, all right, we're gonna take you off it, but here's a solution within the still of the phone that you can't put down. So what we do also is this, it comes down, I think, to rituals too. So even like in the morning, my whole point with like, when I was explaining like in my morning ritual, I don't touch my phone. I do meditation for 20 minutes. I try to keep it in an hour. And then the whole thing is that 20-minute walk that I do, like from here to the beach, I live across the street from the beach. That is so I don't touch my phone still. So that's already almost like 30 minutes of not touching my phone. And then when I get to the thing, the sun is rising. And so I'll take out my phone there and just take pictures or do like an Instagram story, but I won't see what anybody's putting. It's just to capture that moment. Then I listen to my audiobook, but that whole thing is like, it's strict on it. And then when it comes down to the gym or working out, we leave our phones home. Or even when I used to do CrossFit or all this, my joy was leaving the phone there and not touching it for that hour or whatever for that. Like I left that in my bag. We leave our phones at home when we work out now. And it's just ritual. Dinner, we don't touch our phones. We put that away. We have to engage and talk, so that's the other thing. And we do the same thing. We only watch Netflix, a movie, and we choose wisely what we watch on when we watch that, because it's all like shooting up movies and stuff. And we're trying to keep our minds sharp on that stuff. So we only do that as well. We don't watch TV, don't do any of those things. So again, but it came down to a ritual of like, all right, we're not going to touch our phones. We're not going to do at certain points, because, sometimes she'll go to the bathroom and I pick up my phone, or, my girlfriend will go to that. And it's just like, that's the awareness that I have to stop. All right, Martin, put the phone, enjoy, because it's something that, Simon Sinek talks about. He goes to dinner without his phone. And then they're like, somebody asks him, what do you do? He goes, you just enjoy the moment. You look around, you start seeing other people on their phones. You start seeing the waiter do this. You start seeing life interacting, and we forgot. We're so engaged in what's in there that life is happening around us. And I don't know, I always thought that was a interesting thing. So,
it's so interesting to me to hear, when you talk to someone, you're like, I feel seen, I feel heard, because when my husband and we try to focus on, having conversation and having it when we're together, we try not to look at our phones, right? Because he's the most important person, because he's in front of me, and he's the most important person in my life. But if he's in front of me, more so, right? And if he walks out of the room, my instant thought is to grab my phone, and I don't even have any clue. Now, Martin, let me ask you something. When you're at the restaurant, or when you are taking the sunset pictures or the sunrise pictures, do you ever see a post and it's like, oh crap, I got to look at that? Or,
yeah, I'll see 2 private messages and I'm like, oh, like you can look at it. Like if not, you're gonna go in. I'll see the 2 up there. I'm like, should I look at it? Then I'll go engage. So yeah, it's discipline. Like this is just for this moment. It's to get off the phone and I have that whole hour of not touching it. But it's the awareness of it. So another thing too, the Generation X. My generation is my age. I was born in '77, but we gradually went into it, all of us, and Larry included in all this, is that, we started from nothing to the beeper, to the cell phone, to the, we gradually went into it. So many people are born into the iPhone technology or that smartphone, and it's even worse, for them. So that's another thing we're aware. We understood like the cycles of it, but we're just as addicted. So it's just awareness of disciplines to me. What is your thought, Larry?
So the optimist in me wants to say and to urge people this. As what we were speaking about before, people are returning to normal, whatever that is, after they've gotten their vaccination. I would just say and like to encourage people that however you were living before, if it wasn't healthy, and it wasn't sustainable, and it wasn't satisfying to you, no one says that you have to go back to what you were doing before. You could actually take the awareness of the things that you've learned during this period of time and really build the life you'd love to have. To really build what I speak about in my coaching and teaching, you could really build your goodest life. Right. And I really encourage people to do that.
Yes.
Take the awareness that you got during the time that everything was suspended, and don't go back to what you were doing before. If it didn't work for you, make what comes now even better than it was before.
Yes, I love that. Because most people do talk about going back to normal, and I don't like any of it. I don't like the idea of saying, oh, we're going back to normal, or this is the new norm. Drives me nuts. Like that saying drives me crazy. This is not, I would never consider this to be my new norm. I'm too much of a people person. I want to hug people, right? I keep seeing these articles about we should never hug, we should never touch, shake hands, no kisses on the cheek. And I'm just like, that is not okay for me, right? So I agree with you. I think that we should move forward in a way that we've learned. You said something earlier about making sure when we talk about building your own, I think some of the things we learned about, for instance, our health, is that we now have some sort of a home gym, right? So if they shut down gyms ever again, I'm not going to be stuck like I was before, right? So you have these things that you've got set up, but you can go back to the gym if you want. And then you have the option of, if you only have a 20-minute time span to work out, now you have your home gym, you can go do that. So there are lots of things that have gotten better over COVID. And I think I love the fact that you guys have accountability. In fact, Dr. Goodman is kind of working with me. He's holding me accountable a little bit too. So
yes.
So I love that.
Well, Larry can tell you something about, and we wrote about it in the book. What's normal, Larry?
Normal is setting on the washing machine.
What's the normal?
That's all it is.
Wait a minute. What?
Normal is just a setting on your washing machine.
Oh, got it. Okay.
It's just a setting. That's the only place you'll find normal, normal wash.
That's true. That's true.
There is no new normal. Like the normal is, everyone's such a different equation, and you have to know that, what's the normal is totally not normal for somebody else,
I like that, because there's a whole lot of talk about, and I've been talking about on my Monday episodes, everybody's so different, and we all have to realize that what everybody else is doing doesn't matter to you. It shouldn't matter. If somebody else doesn't want to get the vaccine, it shouldn't matter to you. If somebody else isn't going to wear your mask and you want to wear your mask and a mask on top of it, shouldn't matter to me. What does it matter? And I think that has really become to the forefront recently, because everybody's so concerned with what other people are doing and how it's affecting them. And when it really doesn't, it doesn't affect you. I don't think it does. Now, you can prove me wrong on that, but.
What I would just say is the phenomena is called neuromodulation.
Okay.
And that is your ability, you have more control over how you react and the degree to which you react than you think you do. Almost going full circle to what we were talking about at the beginning of today, that if you exercise the control over yourself, and if you believe that you can exercise the control over yourself, self-control is another muscle. If you exercise it and modulate yourself, then you get better at it.
Got it.
If you think that you can't and then you don't, well, then don't be surprised that you're not able to successfully do it.
Yeah. I like that self-control is a muscle, because it is true. The more you exercise, the more you want to exercise, right?
Yep.
Martin, how many times a week do you work out? You said you work out.
Yeah, we do about 5 to 6 times a week. Yeah.
Yep.
So for me,
but that's just and I'm just saying, part of the ritual, like even when this whole COVID started, our whole thing was like keep at our workouts, keep eating the same foods that we're eating, keep waking up at the same, keep our ritual strong, because this is the only way we're going to get through this without being easily influenced by all those things you said about put the mask on, put the mask up. Just stick to the plan of what we've always been doing, because it's the only way to get through. And that's the mindset. You have to have that mindset to keep going, or else the life takes you over. There's so much outside things coming at you, negative, and mostly negative. So you have to have that strong mindset to be able to go work out, to be able to choose the right foods, to be able to put the right things in your mind. When you picked as simple as one movie on Netflix, even if you don't have TV, and social media is just as bad. If you go to all those things, I have to stop myself too. Like, I don't watch TV, but then I'm on social media and all the news that's on there infiltrates my mind there. So like, who's the hypocrite here? So I hypocrite myself. I'm saying from my experience. So it's a discipline thing that's when I put the phone down. I'm like, right, focus, get back to your list, get back to your things, and get things done.
So to go full circle,
yep.
That's the whole point of having an accountability group, having an accountability person, is the level of performance that you will hold yourself to is always higher and always greater when you know that you are going to be held to account.
Yes.
And I have personally found, both in myself and in my clients, and you'll see as we start to do our little circle, that it improves the quality of the outcome of your life. And it's worth it.
It's so true. And, what you're saying and what Martin said is having the habit first out. Like Martin had you and I and Dr. Goodman not had the good habits that we had going into COVID of working out and eating well, we wouldn't have picked them up more than likely during COVID, right? They were, because we struggled. My husband and I work out 6 times a week too, and we eat healthy. But we struggled because the gym, every single where you looked, it's like, man, they didn't even want you outside, and you're like, what in the world am I supposed to be doing here? So you have to have those good habits before something happens, that way when something does happen, and it will, you have, excellent habits. So I love the accountability factor for that. I love that you guys have that with each other. I love that we're starting to kind of hold each other accountable, Dr. Goodman. And I think that everyone listening, to have an accountability partner of some sort. And if you don't have one, maybe get in touch with Dr. Goodman. Maybe it's something you pick up your book, talk about that. Just a quick little message about your book. Martin, you wrote that Fridays with Goodman because of your experience with Dr. Goodman.
Yeah, I mean, just a short synopsis. Pretty much, he used to coach me Friday at 9 a.m. every morning, and I picked that on purpose so that I can, start off my Fridays early and not go out during my party times when I first met with Goodman, and it went from there. And then one of the things in his coaching and my life was just gradually changing incrementally. And one of those things, I went to a bookstore, called up Larry, and told him like, "Hey, I have our next book, and I saw a cover called Tuesdays with Murray, and I was like, we're Fridays with Goodman." And he's like, "What?" And then from there, it just sparked out there, and it was like,
and the point of that for anybody listening is, I had made an affirmation for myself many years before that I was a writer. I'd written articles and things, but I'd never written a book. And so the morning Martin called me from the bookstore, it was a manifestation for me that, you know what? If you say it and make it an affirmation long enough and stay focused on it, you can manifest anything. So that even I could co-write a book if I just kept my eye on the prize.
Right. Yeah.
So you can. Anything.
Anything.
Yeah. Anything.
Regardless.
I mean, sorry. Go on. No, I'm just saying this. And it was like a testimonial at the end of the day. Like all these things that we're talking about, and these things with accountability and all these things, I had all these same questions. I had all these I had all these past, I guess, traumas and stuff like that. But all these things that I didn't confront in order for me to understand what I needed to be accountable for. You know what I mean? So, and you'll see in the book that whole journey of it. And if you want to see Fridays with Goodman, I'm just saying that was the gist of it. And I was able to write kind of a testimonial of what changed my life and what brought us together. And it's, in essence, Fridays with Goodman is a whole thing on accountability.
Yeah, I love it. It's so good. So what we'll do is, Dr. Goodman, everyone already kind of has your information because you've been on before, but yes. I'm going to put it there again. So the Goodman Factor and the Fridays with Goodman, does that book have its own website?
You can get it on Amazon. It's available on Amazon, and it's also on goodmanfactor.com/book, I believe. So yeah, it should be on /book, or you'll see it there on the front there on goodmanfactor.com.
Okay, good. Well, I love this. This has been fun. I really wanted to talk about this because I've thought a lot about this accountability and how we're getting kind of away from it, Well,
we're going to stay on it. You can count on me. You can count on me to hold you accountable, and that's the way they work. And it's very reciprocal. And I thank you for today and just for being the welcome addition to my life and to the Goodman Factor. And this was great. Thank you.
Yes, so much fun. Martin, it's been so nice to meet you.
Nice meeting you, Heidi.
Don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, because we're just going to keep going bigger and better places together. And I love that about us. Talk to you in a few days.